One of the toughest removals we did was early in the filming. The crew was green, they were new being around bees, and it was an oak tree. I tapped the entrance of the oak tree, and that whole thing exploded with killer Africanized bees. The crew got covered, I got covered, I had bees in my suit. There was venom on the lenses. Al got all stung up. It was one of the craziest removals we've done, and that was right in the start.
Hello, Mr. Charlie.
Hello, Andre. How you doing?
Hello. Hello from Romania. This is your first interview with a Romanian guy?
I think so.
Yes. What you know about the Romanian bees?
I don't know anything about Romanian bees. Tell me about those.
You don't know anything at all. Is it true that, first of all, you were dragged against your will to be beekeeping class given by Kirk Tubbs?
That's right. That's right. I had no interest in bees. I had no interest in the class. And then the class began, and he was such a good presenter and so passionate. I had questions and I was interested, and I left that class with all the equipment I needed and started beekeeping.
And you never thought that it will be your job for all your life?
Never. I've done a lot of different things. I've been a journalist. I've been a teacher. I've traveled. I've done a lot of stuff. Really interested in experiences, and then bees came along, and I fell in love.
You teach even in Japan?
That's right.
And what you teach? English?
I taught English as a second language. Yeah.
And they have a lot of bees.
I don't know. I never saw bees when I was in Japan. That was a former life. Before for me, it's before bees and after bees. And so after bees,
it's a new life for you.
It is. It really is. Beekeepers, when two beekeepers meet, they say, the first question, how long have you been beekeeping? And really, I haven't been beekeeping that long. My mentor has been beekeeping for 50 years. And so I'm always learning. I'm always looking to people with more experience. But I've had a very intensive education in bees, jumping right into bee removal work. And I'm doing, hundreds of bee removals a year. So it was a pretty intense course in beekeeping.
I saw some videos with you, and I saw that you are not afraid of the bees at all.
I am.
And how you do it? They don't pick you at all?
They sting me very often, and it hurts, and I cry, and
really?
I just
You're joking.
I'm not. I'm very, I respect the bees. So when I go to remove a hive, what I'm approaching is a successful colony with a mom and babies and resources, and they don't want to leave. And so I'm really intruding in their space, and I have a lot of respect for that. And so I do my best to wear, protective clothing. Sometimes I'm not very intelligent sometimes, or maybe too brave, and I take off my gloves quite often, and I get stung in the hand. And it's hot here in Texas, so that veil over my head, that is like a sauna. So whenever I can take my veil off, I do, and I'm prone to getting stung in the face. That's a sting right there from last night.
I see.
And it hurts and it swells, but no, I'm not afraid of bees. I'm respectful of them. They defend their colony, and that's their job. And so I have respect for that.
I know that last year the Earthwatch Institute declared the bees the most important living species on the planet. Do you think this statement it's too late for save them?
Well, I think there is some good news in the world of bees and beekeeping, namely that backyard beekeeping has become very, very popular. And I think that's good news for bees and beekeeping, so that there's a real revolution or an upsurge in the number of hobbyist beekeepers. And I think that's good news for bees. Just as important as the honeybee as a species is their habitat. So, and that to me is the concern. We want to, you can't have bees or any of the thousands of other types of pollinators, wasps and butterflies and hummingbirds. You can have none of them if you don't have the habitat. So we need to have, you know, diversity of habitat. We need lazy farmers. Lazy farmers leave their ditches full of weeds, and they don't spray them with pesticides. They let the weeds grow. So yeah, I like lazy farmers who let their weeds grow or let their fields go fallow for a year. But it's a complex issue, and bees are important piece of certainly agriculture. You can thank a bee for every third bite of food you take, right? But the big issue to me is habitat.
So we need a lot of lazy farmers,
Lazy farmers.
to save the bees.
That's right. That's right.
In America, do the children learn in school about the importance of the bees in the human life? Do they know something more than other kids in other countries?
I'm not sure if they know more than other kids. I know I do speak with a lot of school groups, and that's a real joy for me. I love talking with kids. I love sharing my passion for bees with people, gardening clubs and the like. And judging by the kind of questions people ask, much like the question you're asking, those are good questions. We need to just keep asking those questions. How do we protect our pollinators? How do we keep plant and animal diversity? And so I hear those questions from kids. I talk to every third grade class. So they're 7, 8 years old kids. I talk to every third grade class in our area every year, and through a local organization. And I think that's a neat opportunity. And the kids are very tuned in to bees and why they're important, and they ask great questions. So I have hopes for that we're becoming more aware of our environment and why that's important.
Is it true that the bees recognize the human face?
Yeah, I do understand. That's what I understand. They certainly know, you know, they know where CO2 comes from, right? So one of bees' biggest enemies in the world is the black bear or the skunk or the raccoon or the critters that attack the hive eat bees or take their honey. So bees tune in on CO2 emissions. So that's why we wear a veil over our face, but they'll also hit the ear, the eye. I do think when I open a hive, you'll see the bees poke out, and I swear they're looking me in the eye. I think they're, but at the end of the day, you know, bees are instinct. They're driven by their genes, and they're driven by their situation, meaning how big is their colony, what is their role in the colony. So they're really driven by instinct. So I think there's a tendency to anthropomorphize bees, to make them seem like Disney character animals, when really they're simpler than that as an entity, but more complicated than that as a group, right? The bees themselves form these large colonies and they collaborate. That to me is amazing, but I think we have to be careful not to anthropomorphize bees and treat them like puppies.
How you recognize who's the queen?
You know, you get an eye for it, and the queen she's long and bigger, and she has kind of a pointy butt, and the bees move to make way for her. So you can recognize her by her movements. And I spend a lot of time in my own hives trying to find and capture the queen. And certainly in the bee removals I do, it's very helpful to find the queen. We don't always do that. Sometimes I vacuum up the queen unknowingly, but no, she is the linchpin of the hive, and we work very hard to find her. And the more you do it, my wife has a very good eye for queens. I'll bring her along to we capture a swarm or bees on the move, and my wife is very good at spotting queens, better than I have. Bad eyes. I'm getting old, so I have to wear readers. So I'm looking for my readers.
I don't think it's question of age. I know that Morgan Freeman recently turned his more than 100 acres land in Mississippi into a massive bee sanctuary to protect the species. Is it important that Hollywood stars or musicians and big sharks to do this gesture to help the bees?
Sure, I think that's great. I've seen that on social media or an article about him. How cool is that? I'd love to hang out with Morgan Freeman and work bees, but I think that's great. Why not? The public relations around environmental issues, I think, is important. And I was talking with someone recently about, does it help when you take a bus stop and convert the roof of a bus stop into a small pollinator garden? On the aggregate of things, maybe not that impactful, but in our minds, it gets us thinking about that. So I think it's wonderful. And if a celebrity wants to use their fame as a platform to do good things like that, that's great.
Who did the first step? The Viasat Nature came to you, or you did your step to them?
I believe I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that worked.
You don't remember.
My partner in this project is a gentleman named Ashley Davison with Inio Sante Productions here in Central Texas. And he was the genesis of all of this. He approached me and said, I see you working with bees on Facebook and it looks crazy. And he said, how many of these projects do you do? And I said, I do a lot. I do two to four on a given day in the springtime and the summertime. And he said, oh, that's great. Let's make a TV show. So we made the show by hook or by crook and just made it happen, made a pilot, got some interest. And we're so excited to be partnering with Viasat Nature. I think it's a perfect place for us to land.
It is, and it is great for us. Are the bees the only pollinators, or do this thing the butterflies or bumblebees or wasps? Can they help or not?
Yeah, I mean, really, well, it's interesting. In the United States, bees are an invasive species. So there are thousands of other species of solitary wasps and bees. Bees are the only kind of, honeybees are the only type of insect where we manage a product. I think maybe silkworms could be the only other one. So there's bees are a little bit like livestock, and yet we have we're in this web of many different types of pollinators, all of which are just as important. I'm a big fan of we have a species here in Central Texas and further south of us in Mexico called the Mexican honey wasp, and they form these big papery hives, and you can't harvest their honey. I've heard people can cut it. They do produce honey, but it's in a papery, so you have to basically kill the hive to get the honey. And I think it's a delicacy for some folks, but they are really cute little pollinators. They pollinate avocados in Mexico. They don't like cold, so this year we had some cold and we lost. But I have rescued Mexican honey wasps before. I just like them, and I have a conservation area where I'll take the Mexican honey wasp and I hang them on
honey wasps.
Yeah, Mexican honey wasps. They're adorable.
I've read somewhere that the bees contribute billions of dollars to the United States agriculture sector every year. Is it important to save this big money, not using the pesticides because they constantly destroy their habitat?
Yeah, I mean,
you fight with them. You can.
I don't. So I'm not a commercial beekeeper, or like, what do they call a migratory beekeeper? I might become one someday, and that might be our season 2 or season 3, where we have the bulk of beekeepers in this country are large commercial operators that move bees to the almonds in California in January, and then migrate their bees to pay to pollinate, or they follow move bees for honey production. So that's really the bulk of beekeeping in this country. Like I said, there's a rise in people like me who are essentially backyard beekeepers, non-migratory beekeepers, keep their bees all in one spot. So I'm also on the board of our state organization, the Texas Beekeepers Association, which are mostly hobbyist beekeepers or sideliner beekeepers, semi-professional. We have a number of commercial beekeepers involved there, and we kind of all need each other, right? So I think sometimes we can play black hat, white hat, good guy, bad guy, pesticide company, bad guy, agricultural doing it wrong, commercial beekeepers doing it wrong. So I think there can be finger pointing where I think in an ideal world, we would collaborate. It doesn't always happen, but I think it's happening as people become a little more aware, and just to find out what's going to be the ideal for our agriculture, for food production, and then also for our environment. And it can be, there's a lot of disconcerting information out there about climate change and the like. I really my hope as a beekeeper is just to do what I can do, and do my part as my very small part to protect pollinators. And
that was the question. So you do anything you can to protect them?
Sure.
Do you eat often honey?
I like honey, but I really like bees more than I like honey. So
that means.
So I steal from my bees? Certainly. Yeah, I do harvest their honey. Yep. And there you can make an argument for that. We actually call it robbing the hive. But my ultimate interest is the health of my bees. So if I take too much honey from my bees, I'm going to lose bees. They're going to starve. So I like to think I do it the right. My hives are experiments. Every time I'm out in the bees, I'm learning something new. I do a lot of study. I connect with a lot of other beekeepers through beekeepers associations and our state organization. And I'm always learning something new and applying that in my bees. So it's not, it's a work in progress, what I do with bees. And it's changed in this past year.
It's good to know. Can you recommend for a young guy in Romania to read some books, one book about bees? Yeah,
so there's a great book by a gentleman named Dewey Caron. Here, I'm going to Google it. Dewey Caron, bees. It's bee biology. There's the Complete Bee Handbook, and I don't have my books right here. Honeybee biology.
Honeybee biology.
Yeah, I think getting honeybee biology and beekeeping. It's more of a textbook. It's very it gets very deep into genetics and reproduction and how all that works. And I think having a foundation in that is great. The other thing is to if you're wanting to become a beekeeper, get some bees. Get some bees and get a mentor.
That's the first step.
Get somebody who can teach you, or you can ask questions to, or join a club. And it's beekeepers. I love beekeepers. They're quirky, strange people like myself, and they're very welcoming by and large. So
anyway, we'll look after you in Viasat Nature, and we thank you very much for your time, and we are hoping to have you sometime in Romania. Maybe
I would love to come.
You'll see how it works.
I would love to. I want to meet beekeepers from all over the world.
Thank you much, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Andre.
Great. Thank you very much, Andre. Bye-bye. Thanks, Andre. Bye-bye.
This man is Charlie Agar.
Off we go.
A bee-mad bee expert on a mission.
Saving bees and sweetening peas. That's what we do.
Rescuing bees from sticky situations.
We want to make sure we get them all.
And putting them to work at what they do best.
Stay up for the honey, baby.
saving the planet and making new friends.
We got some bees out of it and solved these folks' problem.
Welcome to the Charlie Bee Company. Starts Sunday the 4th of July on Viasat Nature.
Ow, got stung.